Okay, good morning, good morning. Who's here for the socks? Next door. Okay, hey, at least we got some honest people here in the room. How many of you were sitting in the room as Mark and Jonathan were talking about getting lost on the great trail system that exists here in North Carolina, thinking, geez, I would love an app that would, as they're getting lost, there's extra steps are counting in my Fitbit tracker. So when my wife's looking at my stats, it looks like I'm actually doing something. And she's not sitting there saying, you're not moving around enough, Jim. Hey, welcome. This is just fantastic to see this many people here in the room today. Mark and Jonathan, thank you very much for your opening comments. And again, I thought it was extremely important that we allowed Mark and Jonathan an opportunity to be on the stage here and talk about the great things that are going on locally. Because if you often have heard me say, this is a partnership, it's a collaboration. State and local government need to work closer together. And we're very fortunate to have individuals like Mark and Jonathan locally, among others that are here in the room, that are local government CIOs. We need to do a better job of interacting because we're all serving the same constituents. And so as we go through today, keep that as a theme, keep that in the back of your minds, because at the end of the day, this is what it's about. This is where government can really be effective and do really cool things across the board. And as I've often said, local government is where the rubber hits the road. When people look at state government, they think about the infamous 8 words, right? Educate, incarcerate, medicate, you get the gist. Local government is where they see my trash got picked up. I turn my spigot on and water's coming out. I got power coming into my home, et cetera, et cetera. So North Carolinians see local government in action every day. North Carolinians see state government in action on the news, right? When you get to it at the end of the day. So again, I want to thank our local partners for being here. And like I said, some great to see so many of you. We already had the jokes about the air conditioning. So this is great to be in this venue. This is a fantastic arena. It was great to see how many exhibitors were next door. So for our vendor sponsors, thank you for coming out in the force that you did. We greatly appreciate it. I will also tell you, make sure you save some socks for the kids. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Our high school students really do enjoy the swag, so we got to make sure we keep some for them. Zach and the GovTech team, thank you very much for pulling together this exciting agenda and for being a great partner in all of this. As we forge new relationships, we got to continue to build on our existing ones as well. So use this as a day today to go ahead and collaborate, meet some new people, talk about things that are going on within your respective agencies, within your respective spheres of influence, whatever the case may be, and generate ideas, generate topics, generate some innovation potentially. As we're moving into, we will be moving into a new administration in January, an upcoming new biennial budget cycle. This is the opportunity now to start having these conversations so we can begin to formulate those plans as to what that may look like for the incoming administration. On the state government side, many of us are currently starting to work on transition planning documentation. These are the kind of things that we need to be including into these briefing books that are going to be made available to whomever wins the election in November. So again, we want to make sure that we're doing it. And then speaking of the administration, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Governor Cooper and how he has championed IT initiatives here in the state of North Carolina. And obviously one of the biggest areas that Governor Cooper has been behind, besides public education, is really around broadband. And as you all know in this room, he made it very clear to me that broadband was our agency's #1 mission. But we also, even earlier today, we talked about the importance of public education as we look at technology getting pushed down into our 9 through 12 part of the school system. How do we educate our children differently? How do we make our tool sets available to these students so as they're graduating high school, they are now viable members of the workforce? They can come into any government job opportunity and be a contributor immediately. Obviously, we want to incentivize higher education, so we're not minimizing higher education by any stretch of the imagination. But there are, as we all know, not every child's ready to go to college, but they can work. And I think we have a responsibility for enabling those opportunities as well. And I think that's why it's going to be really cool today, if over our lunchtime frame period, we're going to have, as been a tradition now for the last 3+ years, of having some of our high school teams. I think it's Alamance, Beaufort, and Governor Moorhead schools that are going to be here to talk about the great work they're doing as high school students in supporting technology. And please stay here and watch that, interact with these children, because this is the future of our workforce. They're extremely talented kids. And again, one of the best things, and I've been fond of talking to Councilman Rao there a lot about, what is it like being Secretary of IT? And I always explain it's like 29 days of Mike Tyson punching you, and then you get to have the one fun day. And the one fun day really is getting out into the high schools. It's getting out and talking to these future leaders in the industry, our future workforce. Take advantage of these children today when they're here. It's phenomenal how they're thinking, what they're thinking about. Last week I was at a conference, Tori Jessup and I were there. Had a young lady ask me the question, what are you doing as a senior leader to protect us from the bad effects of AI? What a question. How would you all answer that? Right? Think about it. The Gen Zers are acknowledging the fact that they know AI is here, but they're also concerned about what its impacts could be. And so get engaged in a dialogue. I mean, it's just amazing what these students are thinking about as far as that goes. It's also interesting to get out there and see what our schools are doing. And the fact that as you go and you look at these career tech programs that are through a number of our public school systems, these students are wanting more. They want more. They're like soaking everything up. And the school districts can't give it. They can't do after school extracurricular activities because our school teachers are stuck moving on to, as they jokingly tell me, their side hustle because they're trying to pay for their master's degree program and working 2 or 3 jobs to go ahead and be able to be a viable family unit at home while they're here educating our students. So anything that we can do from a tech sector and all our vendor partners that are out here today, think about ways that you can support North Carolina public school systems. Think about how you can make tools available. Think about maybe opportunities where we could do extracurricular clubs after school for students that are interested in learning some of these things. I know Rob Main somewhere in here, and I jokingly referred to him that this is a state and local government conference, not a Fed conference, so I jokingly refer to Rob as our Fed. But if you remember, Rob Main was our former state chief information security officer. And one of the things that Rob had done was working with a number of our high school students doing I think it was Wednesdays after school, a cyber club kind of discussion online where they were walking through pertinent things. Now, we couldn't show the students any of the secret sauce, but you can talk to them about vulnerability management. You could talk to them about why patching is important and some of those basic things that a lot of adults take it for granted, but a lot of our students take it for granted. They just know that their phone does certain things. They don't necessarily always understand the importance of it. So we got to continue to build upon those successes and continue to make that happen. We've been very fortunate in North Carolina to have the Carolina Cyber Network, which is producing our next talent of cyber warriors here in the state. Community college system, universities, you name it. And what we're seeing is that about 50% of the enrollees are going through accelerated certification programs, and about 50% of that student body is actually going forward for 4-year degrees. We want those talented kids that are coming out of that program with those certifications. They can work today and be difference makers for us. So it's important for us, if you ever get the opportunity to get out and be involved in your local school system, do it. Be an influencer for these children down the road. And some of the ways that we've been able to do that over the last couple of years has really been around data governance. So we have our North Carolina Datathon that we work hand in hand with NC State, the Friday Institute, among others, where we're bringing in high school student teams, we're bringing in college teams, and they're given a number of open data sets and then having the opportunity to go solve a problem. And come up with some conclusions and some recommended actions that are normally being taken back to executive leadership. This year, we had a high school team win outright. We used to do a college competition and a high school competition. This year, we kind of did it all as one. Cary Academy beat out all the college teams with what they were doing. And it's just fun when you're sitting there and you're able to explain some things and being able to tell children as to how did the research triangle get formed? What is its importance? How has that had an economic impact in North Carolina? and they're starting to see these data sets a lot differently than just looking at numbers on spreadsheets or whatever. And at the same time, too, how they're, what's the word I'm looking for? How they're accessing that data is totally different. You know, I would look at, and again, being older, an ETL, they're leveraging ChatGPT. Think about doing ChatGPT to do an ETL process. Blew my mind away. In fact, the gentleman who, he's now, this past year he was a freshman at UNC, but he was a high school senior. This year he actually sat down and showed me what he did. He got to spend about 30 minutes of his time learning about how he looked at data differently and how he went ahead and did an ETL process. Just totally revolutionary in my mind as to how they were looking at data and doing things differently. And then, of course, we have our hour code. For those of you not familiar with that, the hour code is basically an hour of IT opportunity that we're taking out into middle schools. Traditionally, it's been in the 3-county area here around Raleigh. Last year, we were able to expand that out to Columbus County. And our colleagues and friends from Accenture spearhead this effort for us. We were able to reach last year 142 middle school classrooms and 8,000 students for an hour of code. Phenomenal success. This year, we have commitment from Accenture. We're taking this across all 100 counties in the state of North Carolina. So, big applause. And one of the things that came back, and the importance for every female IT leader in this room, one of the things that came back was a comment from a young lady in Columbus County who made the comment how awesome it was to see a female running this program. And in this case, the employee from Accenture was with child and just bam, 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 doing, and it inspired this young lady. That might be one person now, one female lady that we now have coming into the IT program. And what we're hearing is that for the most part, in middle school, students are making choices as to whether or not IT is viable for them as a career, STEM's viable for them. And the Friday Institute actually told me about 2 weeks ago that actually in some cases, women, young girls I should probably say, and people of color are as early as in 4th grade already making a decision whether or not they should belong and have an opportunity in a career in IT. We have to change that. And so getting out into our schools, getting out and showing these individuals what's possible is extremely, extremely important for all of us here in this room today as IT leaders. And especially for our female IT leaders here in this room, please, please, please do your part so these young women can see an opportunity for themselves in a career moving forward, because you all know we need more gender diversity in our career field. And so with that, we're going to be putting out next month a call for volunteers, because to go across 100 counties in all school districts, in all middle school classrooms, it's going to be a Herculean effort. Some of these are going to be in person, some of these are going to be virtual, but we need volunteers to help work with us. You do not need to be a state government employee. You can be a vendor partner of ours. You can be local government, whatever the case may be. But collectively here, if we look at the talented people in this room, if every one of you helped us in this process, I'm confident we could put on one hell of a program across all 100 counties for these students. So I ask for your help. And that's going to occur during Computer Science Education Week in December. I believe it's the second week in December, normally when this occurs. So in 5 days, we're going to be hitting, hopefully, every county, every school district, every middle school classroom. So again, ask for your help. And let's show these kids that there's an opportunity in IT, an opportunity in this technology career field, and how vital and important they are from a gender diversity, from an ethnic diversity as well. As we move on to other things, I think it's important for us to recognize some accomplishments that we've had here over the last 3+ years. So first and foremost, we talked earlier today about broadband and the digital. I hate the word divide. I like the word continuum, because I don't think we'll ever address the divide. It's always going to be ongoing. And so with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about the success of the state's broadband program. Over $500 million distributed out to our internet service providers, with them providing about $180 million of in-kind contribution investment back into the state. 189,000 households and businesses currently have projects underway to deliver high-speed internet capacity to their households. With the projects we have underway, we are addressing across the state 80% of all underserved, unserved households in the state of North Carolina. A phenomenal accomplishment over the next 2 to 3 years for that to get done. And we still got more to do. We still have another $280 million to distribute that we're working on to do the secondary, tertiary type projects as well. Our digital literacy programs have been rock solid. If you've happened to see recently the Charter Spectrum News Forum, our director of the Office of Digital Equity and Literacy, and Ned Taylor, along with Cindy, I think her last name's you, I'm going to pronounce it probably incorrectly, but the Cramden Institute, talking about device refurbishment and education and literacy of getting devices out to needy households. 901,000 households in the state of North Carolina are dependent upon the Affordable Connectivity Program that went out of commission at the end of May. That's a $30 internet bill offset. That's a $27 million problem a month, if you think about it in those terms, for North Carolina. Fortunately, there looks to be movement finally in Congress about reauthorizing a $7 billion plan, but it's not there yet. But we've been very fortunate that our ISPs in the state of North Carolina have continued to honor that $30 offset. And so at this time, we have not lost a household. 901,000 households are eligible for this program and receiving it. We have not lost a household yet to that because that program got discontinued in large part because of the continued investments our ISPs are making in the state of North Carolina. Phenomenal success there as well. Getting ready to start pulling down $1.5 billion of BEAD funding. Fourth largest award that any state has received across the country. We'll talk a little bit later about that, but when you think about originally when the BEAD program was announced, North Carolina was only to receive around a targeted $800 million. We were able to double that through the progressive efforts, and we'll talk a little bit more about our GIS program, but our folks in our GIS program, the mapping, the things they were able to do, the data sets that we have available collectively in the state of North Carolina across all levels of government, we were able to basically go and challenge the FCC on about 45,000 address locations. We did not lose a single challenge. And as a result, another $700 million is coming into this state. Just shows you the talent and the capability, if we all work together across all levels of government, what we can do. That is a huge boom for the state of North Carolina as far as getting those dollars in. We talk about cybersecurity. We've got to talk about cybersecurity, especially with Rob here in the house. We talk about a whole of state cybersecurity approach, and we are looking for more innovative ways that we can begin to do things more with local governments. And I know that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow. It's hard for me to come and say, I'm from Raleigh, I'm here to help, and most local government people just smile and start trying not to laugh. We have money, we have funding, we have solutions, we have a way forward. We need all of your help here, my local government colleagues, for us to do something a lot differently. Our Tier 1 counties continue to get victimized by cyber attacks. That's an impact on North Carolina. And we can do a better job of this, and I ask for all of you to think about creative ways collectively that we can do some things a lot differently than we do today. I'm less worried about Tier 3 counties, so I know Jonathan has Wake County in good shape, at least I hope. But what we're seeing is really our Tier 1 counties. And again, what do Tier 1 counties still run? They run water filtration systems. They run sewage systems. They run things that are core critical components to provide services to all of us here, no matter where you live in the state. There's going to be an impact. And when we start thinking about critical infrastructure from a cybersecurity aspect, just this past year on our National Guard side, we did our cybersecurity exercise was around critical infrastructure, and it was water treatment systems, right? How easy it is. I'm going to tell you, folks, how easy it is to take over a water plant system. It's truly scary, truly scary. And, again, because we like to have fun, it was the town of Springfield, Monty Burns' nuclear power plant. But are you going to attack the nuclear power plant? Or what's the one thing a nuclear power plant needs? Cooling. What provides cooling? Water. The easiest way to get a nuclear reactor into a chaotic state, right? Sounds far-fetched, sounds very Simpson-like. Yes, we were having fun. very realistic. Last year, as an example, we did an exercise on how easy it is to disrupt the rail system, right? If you think, and again, from a military aspect, the exercise was pre-staging equipment from the East Coast to the West Coast in the event that China and Taiwan, something occurs there. China basically creates a cyber incident that disrupts the U.S. railway system. 3 months later, guess what happened in South Korea? That same scenario, which has happened in France during the Olympics. We got to do a better job, folks, and so we need to work collectively because we can't accomplish this as individuals. We talked a little bit about, or Jonathan brought up about CrowdStrike. I didn't want to mention CrowdStrike. I'd rather talk about resiliency. And later today, our 911 Executive Director, Pokey Harris, is going to be on a panel talking about resiliency. But North Carolina, I believe the first state that has a next-gen 911 system completely implemented across the entire state. And talk about resiliency. And to that point, our federal government partners are recognizing that. This past year, we brought on, first time ever in North Carolina, although Texas did beat us to have the claim of first state ever, our first military installation. So Seymour Johnson Air Force Base is now hanging off of our next-gen 911 system. Other military bases in North Carolina have taken note and are engaging in conversation to transition over to the North Carolina system as well. So again, as we talk about resiliency and we talk about the quality programs that we have in supporting our PSAPs in our counties, our first responders, our telecommunicators, North Carolina is leading the way. And it's really humbling to go to a conference, because most conferences I go to, they want to talk to me. I'm like the C-lister. I mean, you get there and Pokey's at these conferences, I never get a chance to talk. I get to hide in the corner and just watch, and it's great to see. To the point now where Pokey was just named as the vice president of the... Pokey in the room? What's the organization? Okay, National Association of 911 Administrators. She is now the vice president of that organization, and next year will assume the presidency role as well. So everybody wants to come and see what North Carolina is doing. Again, that's a partnership. The state runs a certain part of that. More importantly, local government runs a part of that. And it's done through collaboration and partnership, and we're able to have some awesome outcomes in that regard. I think I talked enough. And I haven't gotten the sign there yet. But again, I just want to sit there and thank all of you again, time and time again, for the great work that continues to occur here in North Carolina. Our GIS program, so we talked about GIS a little bit earlier. North Carolina was the only state to receive an A grade for our GIS efforts. Now, technically, District of Columbia did too, but they're not a state. So I'm correct in saying this, I just in full disclosure. But we're very proud. So Tim Johnson and his team have been instrumental behind the scenes, not a lot of spotlight shining on them, but what they do behind the scenes and working across all levels of government to get us to these data sets that we have. As I said, it's resulted in $700 million more money coming in. Those data sets are fundamental to our ability to service people from a 911 aspect. So think about it. Continue to do great work here across North Carolina, and the reason we're able to do that is because of the interagency, intergovernmental collaboration and partnership. So on that note, I'll leave it with that theme today. Think about collaboration, partnership. We can do better. We have to do better. North Carolinians expect it better. But thank you in advance. And again, please consider supporting us on our code. And again, have a great conference.